Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. Let's talk about it. I am Elsa Trevino Dominguez. I am a high school librarian and I am your moderator. And today we are going to be talking to Erika Moen and Matthew Nolan. And they are professional cartoonists and comic book creators. They've been married for 12 years and working together for the past 8. So that's all I'm going to give you about them, because then we're going to get into questions which you'll get to know them better. So let's everyone just say hello. Hi, welcome back.
Howdy.
Okay, so then what the way it's going to work is that I'm going to ask you a few questions in which you will be writing on a piece of paper, and instead of answering for you, you're going to write down what you think your partner's answer would be. So it's kind of like, how well do you know the other person? And it's not to put you on the spot. It's just so nobody judge, okay? It's just for fun. Okay, so first question. Favorite comic book? Or comic?
Favorite comic book?
Or yes, comic or comic book. But for the other.
I have no idea.
Get it right.
I can't remember the name. It was.
Make your own name.
Okay, well I'm gonna write.
Okay.
All right.
That is a lot of writing.
I can't remember the name, so I wrote a whole bunch of stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with Matthew, just to not torture him with the wait time. So did he get it right? What's your answer, Matthew?
What is your answer?
So I said monkey something or other by Ellen Forney. It's it's monkey
food.
Monkey Food.
Anything by Ellen Forney.
Ellen Forney.
Yeah, Monkey Food by Ellen Forney. Yeah, you nailed it.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
I said that your favorite comic is Black Sad.
It's because right now I would say it's the Beastars book. I've been really enjoying Beastars.
Yeah,
it's like high school furry drama-y thing.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of really nice characters. But this is anthropomorphic, so you're really close.
And it's like serious, and there's murder.
I do love Black Sad.
Yeah.
It is really wonderful.
I was close. That's
really great. Okay. So you don't have to write this on paper. This answer verbally. So how old were you when you started reading comics?
How old were we? Gosh, I was reading comics when I was just tiny and wee, maybe like 10, 11, 12. My family, I grew up in Europe, and so we had lots of Asterix, a lot of Tintin, Tonton, and the Calvin and Hobbes stuff, I don't know, 10-ish.
Yeah, I think as long as I've been able to read, I was reading comics, Sunday comics, and then my dad was really into comics in the 70s when they were, what are they called? Underground comics. So I knew there was this stack of collected underground comic books, and I could go and sneak and look at them and be like, I'm not supposed to be looking at this. But yeah, just ever since childhood.
That's great. Do you remember which was the first one you read? I know that's kind of maybe digging too deep, but maybe. Do you remember?
No idea. Mine would have been Tintin something, one of the early Tintins. Probably in French.
Matt's mom is French.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
I think, golly, I guess maybe the earliest thing I remember reading would have been this Smithsonian book of turn of the century Sunday comics. And it
a big collection.
Yeah, it was this big anthology and it had Popeye in there and Dick Tracy and just the whole gamut of Little Nemo in Slumberland. So yeah, it's not quite one specific title, but it was these Sunday comics from turn of the century, classic stuff.
That sounds neat. Very cool. So when you read someone else's comic book or comics, what do you look at first? What do you focus on? The art, the text, something else, everything?
I think it definitely changes a lot when you work and you breathe it all the time.
Yeah.
It's very tough to pick up a brand new comic book and read it without a critical eye to seeing, you know, oh, how did they attack this
The
page?
mechanics of
How
it.
did they do this? Or let's see the timing and the flow. I think it can be tough, but when you do find like a series that you get into, that stuff sort of slips away. You know, you don't really analyze it too much.
I think the first thing that I process without even realize I'm looking at is the entire layout of the entire page, and I see how it fits together. And then, you know, I go into the first panel, the second panel, and so yeah, first impression is the entire page as its own standalone collected image of boxes and how that all fits together. And then it's into like, okay, how did they draw it? And then I'm really looking at the style that they drew each panel in.
Yeah, any kind of hero panel, I love to spend time looking at those. And so the one panel that's just big and standalone, and the one that you're obviously supposed to focus on, I'll laser onto that, and I'll be like, ooh, that's a good panel.
Well, and then I notice word balloons, and I don't just mean like then I start reading. I mean I noticed how the text is positioned within the word balloon. Yeah. Because what you want is the text to like fill this nice oval space, but sometimes the text is done in like a square shape, like the border box of the text is square, but it's in a round thing, so like the shape is all wrong. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I
So that we start getting into the weeds, right? We start to overthink it.
That's great. You really are cartoonists. To look at the shape of the bubbles, like not just the shape, because I pay attention to that too, but like how the words are put in there and all that. Yeah, definitely cartoonist. All right, so here's your second question that you need to write down.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Throw it at us.
Might be an easy one. Favorite city?
Favorite city? Oh, yeah, easy peasy. Oh wait, no. Now that I've said that, I'm having doubts because it's I'm having doubts.
There's multiple. I have many at the same time.
Oh, can I write a town? I'm gonna write a town.
Yeah, and you know what? You can write more than one, because if you have more than one favorite, I have more than one favorite city now that I think of it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am not convinced in my answer anymore, but you go first.
I think you'll be fine. So I originally I said Paris, but then I wrote Aix-en-Provence, which is definitely not how you write it, but that's so Aix-en is like a southern French town, and then Paris is it's a big hub in France. Yours are all going to be French.
Aix-en-Provence was definitely one of the top ones.
Yes.
Paris, not so much actually.
Well, that's it. Paris, a culture center of the world, amazing.
Love the museums.
Yeah, it's nice to
visit.
But
the rest of Paris, oh, come on.
It's nice to visit, but I don't think you'd actually want to
I wouldn't want to live there.
Right.
But yeah.
So.
But we, Matt and I met because I was living in Aix-en-Provence in my junior year abroad, and we met up on that trip.
Yeah, we did a tour of France when we were tiny.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I didn't just say that. One of my questions was, in what city did you meet? So you just answered it.
Well, technically, we met in London.
London, right?
Oh, okay.
But I was living in Aix-en-Provence at that time. Yeah.
Right.
So
right. It's all in a very small period of time too. So
no, it's crazy. Europe, like all these places are so close to each other. Yeah. Okay. So I said your favorite city is Portland.
That's pretty close.
Okay.
I can't think of anything.
Because you don't like cities, but
I'm not a big city boy.
You're not a big city boy, but you do like Portland. So I figured that's close as.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Okay.
It works.
Did you have something in mind? No.
Nothing off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah. I love Melbourne. Melbourne's just a really fun town, but it's just an Australian version of Portland. Yeah. They're so similar to each other that
I was almost gonna say Kent, but then I was like, you don't actually like.
No.
You don't actually like it. That's where his family is.
Yeah. But, that's just home.
That's just home. You like your family.
I love my family, but I don't want to live in England anymore.
So I said Portland.
Good.
Okay, so you answered both of my questions. I was gonna ask where are you originally from, but I don't think, Erika, you've said where you're originally from.
Okay, well, and Matt actually has like an interesting answer.
I'm from all over the place. So
Mhm.
I was born, raised in England, but my dad's Australian, my mum's French, and then I've lived here for like 10 years.
Well, and Matt didn't even become English until he was living here in the US, and then he applied for his British citizenship.
Yeah. So I'm from all over.
He's from all over.
Erika's local.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest. So we're broadcasting from Portland. I was born and raised in Seattle, which is just 4 hours up north.
Up the road.
And yeah, now I live here, so which is Pacific Northwest for people who are not in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, this is my kind of place. Aside from Aix-en-Provence, that's the only other place I'd want to live.
Yeah.
I know. I spent a summer studying there, studying French.
In Aix?
In Aix.
Oh.
Oh my God! Which program?
On my own. I just Googled how to go, and I found the cheapest university. And I was like with a family, but it was just this lady. Lady, and I met a lot of people from other places. So
what year?
That must have been 2007.
Wow.
Okay, wait, when was that? 2000. I was there 2005. Okay,
yeah, not too far off.
Oh, that's
small world.
Yeah, the lady that you stayed with, was her name Raymond?
You know what? I don't remember anymore. So
Okay.
Not very nice. I'll say that.
Oh, okay. Okay. It wasn't my lady then.
But enough about me. Let's get back to you guys.
Right. Sorry.
So this is one that you're gonna write down.
Right.
Okay.
What's your favorite or favorite thing about making comics? If there's more than one, we can list it.
What is your favorite?
I don't know if I need to write it down. There's a lot.
What is your favorite?
Oh wait, this is what Erika's favorite thing about comics are?
Yeah, and this is what your favorite thing about comics are.
Oh,
your favorite thing is.
I don't know. I'm. Yeah, I don't know. Mine isn't something I could just write down with a word.
You have to express yourself.
Yeah,
okay.
I think your favorite.
Express it when you. Are you ready, Erika?
Oh yeah. I got this.
I was gonna say the flexibility of being able to communicate deep, complex emotions through art, and I thought the ability for comics to sort of really, to take difficult things and make them easier. I think that would be your favorite thing about comics.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right up. Like, there's a lot, and that's right up there in the top.
Yeah.
I think your favorite thing about comics is working with the wife.
That's so bad.
You love to.
That's so.
You like you like making art with your partner.
That's so rude. All right.
No, what is your favorite thing about?
I don't know. I would. My answer is the same for myself as it is for you. I like how you're able to do so much with them. And the flexibility of comics is why I love comics. And working with the wife.
There is a correct answer.
Great answer. Okay, so what did you do before you were a cartoonist and professional cartoonist?
Well, I worked in the video game industry, and then you were always a professional cartoonist.
I got started when I was 15, and I'm 37 now. So like my entire adult life, I've just always been doing comics. Although I did work at Ben and Jerry's, and I was a production assistant on the movie Coraline at Leica Studio, and I worked at a little web animation boutique place where I was supposed to just be an office manager, but then I wound up like having to learn how to animate because it was a very small studio. So
yeah.
Great experiences at such a young age. And speaking of that, how the heck did you get to be a contributor on this anthology edited by Kazu Kibuishi at what, 20?
Yeah, I think.
Wow. How did that happen?
Okay. All right. Well, so like I said, I started doing comics on the internet when I was 15, and I made friends with other people. Like we're all on the same art forum, and we were excited about each other's art.
The internet was a lot smaller back then.
Yeah.
So when you found that little niche community, you got to know everybody, and it was just a little bit tighter.
Yeah, and so we would meet up, and my little crew, we called ourselves Pants Press, and we would put together mini comics, and we would go to conventions and give out the mini comics to our favorite creators. And from there, like somebody in Pants Press met Kazu, and Kazu was like, I want to do a group mini comic too, little anthology. And so originally, Flight, if I'm remembering this correctly, like I apologize if I get details wrong. It's been a while. But Flight was originally going to be a black and white zine of just cartoonists telling different stories and have it go through. And then he talked to maybe another publisher, maybe Image first. I don't remember exactly, but suddenly it was like, oh, he was going to self-publish it. Sorry, this is a terrible story. The point is, I was young, teen, early 20s. I had friends who made friends who were excited to do projects together, and this mini comic turned into, it was going to become like a color comic, and then it got picked up by a publisher, and then it was going to be a full color like bookie book.
Kazu just, he made things work.
Yeah, he makes stuff happen.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's how I fell ass backwards into that. Is like I had friends.
That's great. And yeah, Kazu is such a sweetheart. He is one of the nicest people I've ever met. So genuine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I remember when I met him, like I thought he was a grown-up, and in hindsight, he was probably just like, what, 24 or 25 when he was doing this, maybe even younger. Yeah, anyway.
What a great experience. Okay, this is the next question that you would write down.
Oh, okay.
If your partner could meet anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Ooh.
Oh,
Who would you meet?
I don't know. Can I pass? I don't know. I feel like we're pretty content with who we've met. Like, even if I were to think of the question for myself, I don't know. I'm pretty all right.
I'm trying to think, like, who's your favorite character? Who's your favorite movie star? Who's your
favorite
who
director? Would be kind of nice to talk to would be Jason Momoa. I had 5 minutes. No, I had 2 minutes with him in an elevator by accident before he got big and famous for doing things like Aquaman at a convention, just waiting for the elevator to go up and down. And I was like, ooh, that's the guy from Stargate. Ooh, nice. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to ask him any questions. I'm not going to talk to him because, this is a convention. He's going to get tons of that stuff. I'm going to be a pro and just give him his space.
Stand next to him.
But now he does a whole bunch of climbing. He's really into climbing. I love climbing. I would love to talk to him about, his collaborations with So Ill, who do these really amazing climbing shoes.
Does he collaborate?
He does. And so it's like, they're my favorite shoes. So I would love to spend another 5 minutes with him where I could actually talk with him. Like, I'd love to get him a coffee. But I don't know. Like, that's about it,
All right.
Do you have anybody? Let's just pass. I'm so sorry, Elsa.
I'm just going to say that I would also love to meet Jason Momoa.
Yeah, right. He seems like a genuinely really nice guy too, but
No, he really does. Okay, so you guys are very talented, and you're really great at what you do from what I've seen and researched. But, and this is the next question that you'll have to write down. And you may not know, and it's okay. It's another one we can pass on. But what is your partner's weakness when it comes to making comics? And not in a bad sense, just, sometimes there's that thing that just always stalls you and you struggle with a little bit. What would that thing be?
It's a dangerous question to ask a married, working professional
live
couple.
In the same house.
Yeah, this is a minefield for me to answer, Elsa.
Like, do you want the honest answer? Or?
How much trouble am I willing to get into here on live thing? Oh gosh.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Okay. So Matt's. Well, I mean, it's not a weakness. It's just very frustrating.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
He has editor brain, which is that like he's so analytical, and that any concept where I'm like, oh, what if this happened, or how's this for a line? And rather than being like, yes, and then like let's build on that, let's da da da, and that'll be like, let's dissect that, and here's how that won't work, and like let's make this airtight, and it's like, no, let's just let's just let it play for now. We don't need to lock it down yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, you like to.
Yeah. Erika's is she has ideas that are bigger than reality. So Erika she wants to do everything. She has these amazing ideas, and a lot of them are like, wow, that's going to be 300 pages and 4 years of your life to work on that. Are you sure? She's like, yes, I want to do this. So just bigger, yeah. What is it? Bigger stomach than your brain?
Bigger eyes than your stomach. If we're going to eat comics.
Eat comics?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is the last question that I'm going to ask you to write down, and then we'll get into the book, the reason why we're here, right?
Okay, right.
So this one, I don't know how you guys are going to take it, so I'm just going to ask it. Favorite original work?
Sorry, what?
Favorite original work? Anything you've created in your life, professional or before that?
Oh, of ours that we've done.
Each other's.
Oh, his. Oh, right.
I was going to be, I think, the same answer. It's the current book that we've worked on.
Oh.
That we're here to promote.
Oh, right. Yeah, that.
Our book. Let's talk about it. I think it's the height and highlights of what we have done professionally, together and individually. I think, yeah.
That's a
Nailed it.
Perfect segue. So tell us about your new book. Let's talk about it. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's a sex education
and
relationship comic graphic novel-ish book for teens. It's been years in the making, and we're very, very proud of it.
Yeah, it's a guide for teenagers to teach them how to think and talk about sex and relationships, both for themselves and how to do that with others. I mean, the conversations, not like how to do that with others. And it's just it's a step beyond just use birth control. It's more like, how do you bring up consent? How do you communicate difficult concepts with another person? How, if you get rejected, how do you take that gracefully and not lash out at the person?
It's a lot more about, conversations, telling one another that you're okay, and that that you can support your friends, rather than just the physicalities of sex. It's kind of it's the book that you get somebody when they've got more questions beyond just like the basics.
How does a condom work?
How's baby made?
How is baby formed?
How's baby formed? Like once they have questions beyond that, this is our book for teens.
And I love your subtitle because you include Teens Guide to Sex, Relationships, and Being Human, right? I love that. In your author's note, you also say, you mentioned it's sex education is relationship education. And man, is that true. But a lot of them don't think of it that way. It's like it's two separate things. And I had a revelation when I read that. I don't know why at this age. Maybe I've always known that it goes hand in hand, but not because I consciously knew that. So you do a really good job with that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That really means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, they go so much hand in hand. I'm so glad that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like
we had that takeaway.
The way our society and like schools that have sex ed talk about sex, it's like it's this separate physical thing that you just do, and then we don't talk about the relationship aspect of it. Like we do treat it like they're two separate things, when really, when you are interacting with another person, whether it's romantic, whether it's platonic, whether they're a family member, like we're all constantly navigating our relationships, and we're all communicating our wants and our needs, and trying to hear somebody else's wants and needs, and like navigate how to make everybody accommodated as much as we can. And it's all relationships and having sex, or not having sex. It's still a relationship conversation.
Right. And how did you decide to write this book? Because your previous material was focused more on adults, right? And then this is your first like teen book. So how did you come to that?
Well, we sort of leaned into our own experiences of being kids. I remember when I was a kid, I you know, I knew the basics, and but sex fascinated me, and all I wanted to do was learn about sex, and there wasn't really anything there to support me beyond just telling me the basics. And I wanted to create a book that sort of reached back into the past and said to little Matthew, like, hey, everything's okay. It's all right to think these things. It's okay to be interested in these things. It's, everybody's thinking about sex. It's not just about you. It's not just you. And, here's a book for you. So it was very much answering questions of the past.
Yeah.
For the last 8 years, we've been doing sex education on a website, Oh Joy Sex Toy, as well as toy reviews and stuff like that for an older audience. And all the time that we did that, that we've been doing that, we've had parents reaching out going, hey, we really want something for a younger audience, for my kid, something that we can hand off. And so the last 8 years, we've just been sort of building a wish list of things that we would love to tackle and put into the hands of teens. And this is that answer to that. This is the book that takes all of that, and is the book.
Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, so I was gonna ask also, one of my questions is, how did you decide what topics to include, what to address? I know that you mentioned in, I guess it's also the author's note that you, Erika, wanted to include more topics, and and that makes sense now after Matthew's answer about you like dreaming big. But there's so much to cover. So it's two questions, I guess. Like, how did you decide what would go in this book, and will you be making a second book maybe to include what wasn't in there in the first one?
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of.
Yeah. So we had our own experiences to lean onto. Then we talked with a couple of the teens in our lives and parents in our lives, and then we also went to your old high school for like a couple of hours to talk to a class, and so we came away with a lot of questions.
And we were invited to my high school. We didn't just show up at a class.
And so we came up with sort of a hit list of questions and topics that we thought were really important. And then we were like, wow, that's too much, right? If we did all of that, we'll end up with a book that's massive. And so we really had to like whittle it down onto something that we knew we could complete within a year, something that we knew was more attainable. And so I had to cherry pick what we got covered, and and moved on from there.
Yeah. As far as like Matt and I talk pretty regularly about all the subjects that we would put into a second book. So there's definitely there's so much. There's so much. And even the things that we did include in the book, like you only have so much space and time to cover them. So there's so many more nuanced answers and advice that could be put into everything that's in the book already, but we just don't have the time and the space to do it all. There's just so much to include.
Yeah. That's not to say that the book is lacking. There's we definitely sort of targeted specific things.
I think we do a good job.
We do a really good job.
We take a lot of dense information and we condense it down into bite-size, understandable.
And then if we wanted to do everything, we'd still be working on it, and the book would never get released. It's just not plausible to make the ultimate book. As for like a book 2, right now we're just sort of working on Oh Joy. When we were working on Let's Talk About It, we were essentially doing 2 jobs at once. We were working on the it pays for everything, Oh Joy, and then working on this on the book that we really wanted to get done. So we were really burned out. And so right now we're enjoying sort of a down period of just having one job.
Just the luxury of one job.
The luxury of one job. So, there could be another book on the horizon at some point. We definitely have topics like,
I would love to do one about like, how do you talk to your crush? How do you tell somebody you like them? Because like that's terrifying.
Right.
And just how do you do that? And then I'd really like to do cover like breaking up. How do you break up with somebody? How do you get broken up with? How do you move forward? Can you still be friends afterwards? At what point do you need to not be in contact with each other?
Yeah, I mean, we cover some of that in Let's Talk About It. We have like a jealousy chapter, and we have a relationships chapter, but it is a little bit more focused around the world of sex and the conversations that you might have around sex, with other people about having relationships with them and stuff like that. But the other book would be like the conversations before that. So yeah, there's more to be done.
There's so much more.
Yeah.
Right. And all that stuff you just mentioned, possibly for the second book, is so important, as important, also, like, maybe how do you get over a breakup? Because a lot of teens don't, I mean, a lot of people, we don't always have the emotional skill for that. We don't know where to turn, etc. I think that teens anybody would definitely benefit from that. Yeah. So you mentioned talking to relatives and talking to teens, etc. But what other kind of research did you do for this, if any? I know you have some really great resources, not just for help, but like for more information for the readers of your book. So I'm assuming that was part of it as well. So just, what kind of research did you do?
So we've been doing Oh Joy Sex Toy for 8 years now. Which means we've had 8 years of research that we've been doing, and our primary source are usually Planned Parenthood, their website, and then scarletteen.org. And Scarlet Teen is this incredible, comprehensive sex ed website that's made specifically for teens. And
it's
between
written
the two of them,
it's written in a friendly tone, whereas Planned Parenthood can be a little more clinical. and more sterile. The Scarlet Teen is a lot more. It feels like it's written by humans.
Yeah,
and
it's
really nice.
talking a lot about feelings too. So those are the two top resources that we hit when we need to talk about a subject.
But then, I mean, so we would do all the work. We would have using our own knowledge, and then we would have Scarlet Teen and Planned Parenthood to fall back on whenever we needed stuff. But we also have a whole bunch of amazing books upstairs that we would go through. And then at the very end, when the book was all done, it got passed around. Different experts were hired as sensitivity readers to make sure we covered things right. We were two white, cis people. We wanted to make sure that, it got put in the hands of people who aren't
like us. Different backgrounds, different experiences.
Yeah. So it went through a lot of hands before it got printed.
That was so smart to do that. Because you definitely do include a lot of diversity. It's an explosion of diversity. It's so refreshing to see that, and not just in terms of race, but also like people with disabilities, people just like with prosthetics, or you even include sign language. That's most people usually don't think about those populations, and yet you have them here. So you're definitely reaching a wide audience. And I was wondering if you guys studied body types before, or just bodies, anatomy, or bodies, like how much time did you spend on that to be able to do these books?
Well, okay, so like I said, for the last 8 years, we've been doing Oh Joy Sex Toy, and it was also really, really important to us with that project to show a lot of different kinds of bodies, a lot of different kinds of abilities, blah, blah, blah. So for the last 8 years, I've actively sought out Tumblrs when they were still a thing, but Tumblrs that are like, plus size fashion and
just photos of regular people,
people, but like queer fashion and body love for X, Y, and Z type of people with this type of body. And I followed a ton of these just so I'd have a lot of exposure to different kinds of body types, different kinds of presentation, and I would save photos, so that I could go back and reference that. And just making a really conscious effort to diversify the kind of media I consume on my social media feeds.
Yeah, well, mission accomplished. You did it. Diversified well, like it was really well done. That's one of the things that stuck out to me the most. So what role did you each play in this graphic novel? Like, right.
So for
I'm sorry, that cut out just a little bit. Could you repeat yourself?
So I was just asking, what role did you each play in creating this graphic novel?
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
So normally it's pretty 50-50, but for this book, I think I wrote like 70% of it, and then it would go into Erika's hands where she would edit it and chop shop it, or send it back for feedback, and then I would do some more work. Then we had an amazing assistant called Maria France, who's just her work is gorgeous, and she helped lay those things out. So I would have like page descriptions and bits and bobs in there, and she would take that and she would improve it tenfold and lay it out. Then it would get into Erika's hands, and she would do the pencils, the inking, make it look gorgeous. It'd come back to me, and then I would do the colors and the pushing things around and editing parts.
So very collaborative.
So very collaborative.
And even like Maria, when she'd be going over a script, and should we explain what laying out means? Is that
laying out page just means putting the things in the right place.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but I remember sometimes Maria would come back to me and she'd be like, "People don't talk like this," and I'd be like, "Okay, how do we?"
For context, Maria is like
she's younger than
like
us.
10 years, 15 years younger than us. She's a lot more on point.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's just a lot of feedback at every stage between lots of different people. And Maria, like sometimes she would give me a page layout and I'd be like, wow, I never would have thought to have laid out this information like this. And sometimes she'd give me a page layout and I'd be like, I want to do it different. And I would do something completely different. But so like, I don't know, it's just, there's a lot of different voices and hands that were on this at all points.
Yeah, and with Oh Joy, it's a little bit more, our weekly comic, it's a little bit more rough and tumble. Sometimes Erika will write the whole thing and then I'll edit it. Or sometimes I'll write the whole thing and then Erika will edit it. The only things that really stay the same are that I end up doing the coloring and Erika does the inking. Everything else is kind of a little bit more murky and moves around according to what we're in the mood for, really.
Yeah, we're very collaborative.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. You guys just make a great team all around, it seems like. And you knew each other pretty well. The answer is right on point. So can you talk a little more about the publishing aspect? Because we typically ask about your writing process, right? But we don't know enough about getting published and getting out there, because I'm sure that people in our audience came to this, some of them who came to this session maybe are creating their own comics or writing their own book. So can you say a little bit about that?
Well, I think we're rather lucky and privileged in that our publishing route was based on knowing the right people and producing this webcomic for a very long period of time. So we've kind of made ourselves.
Well, I mean, before we started Oh Joy, like I said, I started doing comics on the internet when I was 15. So I've been making connections and friends with people like for 20 years before we even got to a point where it's like, oh, now we want to do a teen book.
So we, for the longest period of time, well, no, for a while now, we've been sort of like a de facto, well, these guys do the sex education comics and they do them online. And so when our editor, Gina, ended up getting her own print house in Random House called Random House Graphic, she came knocking to our door, said, hey, listen, I know you guys have been floating around this idea. Well, I would very much like it. So it's very much from a privileged point, of putting the years in that we've managed to get to where we are.
So for somebody new, I would recommend that they start doing a regularly updating webcomic. And because having a weekly update or whatever update you choose, but weekly is a good one. It teaches you how to stick to a deadline. It gets your work in front of an audience, ideally, and it shows editors that you know how to like you can complete a page, you can keep improving. It builds up your audience. Oh, that was another thing. Like another thing that a lot of publishers are looking for now are creators that already have an audience that comes with them when they get signed on to the project. Because before it was like you're a creator, nobody knows you. The publisher puts out your book and then everybody's like, oh, the book from the publisher. And now it's like you are doing your thing online first. People are following you. They're paying attention to you. And then the publisher is like, you have an audience. Why don't we publish your thing to sell it to your audience? So the advice is just if you're doing your own
Just
comics,
start making, start posting.
start posting. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just meet your deadline. And if it's not as perfect as you want it to be, too bad. Just put it up and you do a better job next week. And and make friends.
Do you have suggestions for platforms or anywhere to start posting?
Gosh, well,
that's the question right now.
Yeah, we had somebody ask us that recently too. We're not the experts to talk to about that. When we started making our webcomics was maybe like, I don't know, 15 years ago. We've stuck with the platforms that were the hot thing back then.
15 years ago.
They are not the hot thing right now. So we're not the pros to talk to about that. So one of the jobs with Ojoy Sex Toy, the webcomic we do, is that we only work on it about half the time, and then the other half of the time we hire a lot of guest artists to help give us more of a diverse voice, put more work up there, and keep things fresh. And so I end up going and having a look at lots of different artists' pages to see if I want to get in contact with them to hire them. And like I see a lot of amazing work on just people's Twitters, different platforms. Even Instagram is a place where people put it. It doesn't really, the platform doesn't really matter as long as you have your work out there and it's accessible and it's easy for me to.
And your contact information is right there.
Oh my gosh! One thing you have to do: put your name on your art. Oh my gosh! Put your
your email.
Nice and clear. Well, you don't have to put your email on your art, but
on
at least,
your website.
At least have it so that I can Google your name and find you, right? Like some people will do these signatures. I can't read it. I can't hire you if I can't read it. Like that kind of thing. Just make it as easy as possible for someone as dumb as me to be able to come find your work and get in contact. That's the dream.
That's great advice. Thank you for answering all my questions, but now I'm going to turn it over to the audience, maybe if they have any questions. If you could please type the questions in the chat, and we'll take it from there. While the audience is doing that, let me remind you guys that you can purchase their book, Erika's and Matthew's book, and all the other books from the authors that are participating in the festival from the Nowhere Books bookstore, and there should be a link in this session, probably like bottom left, where you can just very easily access that. So do we have any questions from the audience? All right, let's give it a few more seconds. Okay, so while they're maybe thinking about their questions, maybe I have time for one more question. Was there one thing that was most challenging about creating this book?
Well, I think that the time difficulties of having to juggle so much is probably the biggest thing. Like experiencing burnout and trying to finish the project in time, that was really tough. But, also just trying to deal and tackle with sex education in itself is really tough. Trying to make sure the language is right, trying to make sure you approach things correctly.
It uses up a lot of brain energy.
Yeah.
When you have to think about something a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we live and breathe it all the time, but even coming at it, starting a brand new project, it's always just, it's so tough, coming up with the right way. It felt really, one thing I think we were really proud of was when we connected with the idea of having teens educating other teens in the book. So something we didn't really cover was, so far in the chat, is our book is broken up into chapters, but each chapter has like one teen talking to another teen about a topic. So you'd have this kid who has a question or a problem come up, and they would reach out, or another friend would be like, hey, actually, I know some information about this. Let me help you along. And so we've been so the book sort of pushes that empowerment message forward. We wanted teens to be able to read it and walk away and sort of feel empowered to help their friends or ask their friends, questions.
Yeah, just giving teens a bit of a roadmap for like, here's how you can bring up these topics, here's how you can respond when these topics are brought up to you, just kind of giving them like a bit of a vocabulary list almost.
Yeah, giving them permission to talk to each other, and telling them that it's okay to talk about sex too. Like that was tough coming up with that play-by-play, but
coming up with different scenarios for teens to be in.
But when we found it, when we hit it, it was really satisfying. I felt like we came at that point. It was like, this book really now has a heart and purpose, and it feels really good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us and telling us about yourself and answering my questions. And just a reminder again, please, in the audience, don't forget to buy your books from our partner Nowhere Bookshop. And if you want more information, you can just Google Erika Nolan and Erika Moen and Matthew Nolan. They're all over the internet, and their work is amazing. Everything has great reviews, so you won't be disappointed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elsa.
Thank you.